All right, we're back with another episode. I'm recording this one back to back with the wide receiver rankings and tiers. I'm trying to get this content out to everybody as fast as they can before they draft this upcoming week or sometime soon whenever they draft. I know a lot of people have already drafted, and it's really coming up on kind of the last big draft weekend here. Hopefully there's still a lot of people out there who haven't drafted yet. I'm trying to get this content out as fast as I can. Like I said, this is getting recorded directly after the wide receiver rankings one. So I've recorded two in one night here. I'm trying to get this content out for you guys. And today we are going to talk not wide receivers. We're going to talk sleepers, breakouts, those kind of things. Guys I love, guys I really don't love. I'm not really going to talk a lot about guys I don't like this year just because we're getting super close to draft time here. If you haven't already drafted, like I said, it's kind of the last week. So I'm really going to focus on players you should be targeting for the most part, sleepers, breakouts, guys that I love, guys that I'm 100% drafting, guys that are no doubt draft this year. So we're really going to focus on kind of the positives, not really the negatives of guys. We're not going to talk a lot about why I don't like guys. We're really going to talk about mostly these guys that I love this year that you need to draft. And just before we start, I want to say go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Casey_G14. Please like the podcast, subscribe, leave a rating and review if you can. And if you leave a rating and review on the podcast or you follow me on Twitter and you message me, I will send you my 2020 draft kit as soon as you ask for it. All you got to do is subscribe and leave a rating and review on the podcast, and you can get my 2020 draft kit / cheat sheet for free. Or follow me on Twitter, send me a direct message, and ask for the draft kit, and I'll send it right to you for free just in time for your draft. So let me know on that. Please do either of those things. And here we go with the breakout sleepers. Players I love kind of podcast here. So this is kind of the big one. These are all the players that people are looking for in your draft. These are the guys that you want on your team. These are guys that are kind of must draft players. If anybody comes up to you on the street that's talking about fantasy football, or the first thing that anyone asks me or any fantasy analyst are, who's the sleepers, who's going to break out, who's having a big year this year. So this podcast is dedicated for that. I'm going to tell you all the guys this year who I think are going to have an absolutely ginormous year. Maybe there are going to be some top names in here, so don't rip on me that because they're not sleepers, because they're top names. But just stick with me here. Like the first one we're going to talk about here is Saquon Barkley. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is one of the best players in the NFL. But why I have Saquon Barkley on my breakout list here is because the Giants upgraded their offensive line. Daniel Jones is going to take another step forward. I think Saquon Barkley could be this year's Christian McCaffrey. Saquon Barkley actually has a better profile than Christian McCaffrey. I think Saquon Barkley this year could have a Christian McCaffrey level season where we're seeing him catch like 100 passes and just go absolutely berserk. I think Christian McCaffrey had one of the greatest seasons in fantasy football history. It was like 20 points shy of being the number one fantasy season of all time. I think Saquon Barkley can push for that this season. And really the only place Christian McCaffrey can go is down a little bit. If he goes up more, he's going to be the best running back in the history of fantasy football, unquestioned. So it's either become the best ever or drop a little bit. And it's likely that McCaffrey's probably going to drop a little bit. So I think Barkley is the guy that can go up to this tier this year. Not tier, but like he can go up and he can push for that greatest fantasy season of all time here. So if you're drafting second overall, push the button on Barkley, no questions asked. Some other breakout guys this year: Dak Prescott, upgraded weapons. Kyler Murray, obviously, upgraded weapons. Matthew Stafford was on track for a huge season last year until he got hurt. And then, so just real quick, I'm going to go through my breakout players. I have my draft kit open. So we're going to go, and I have it in my draft kit as breakouts and then sleepers and then players that I love. So we're just going to go sheet by sheet here on my Excel file here and just go through some of the breakouts here. So other breakouts: Joe Mixon this year, huge breakout this year. Love Joe Mixon. Offense is going to be way better. That means more scoring chances. They get Jonah Williams back from injury, first-round offensive tackle. The wide receivers are good. They got Joe Burrow. Everything is shaping up to get better in Cincinnati, and a better offense means no stacking the box against Joe Mixon. They're not going to stack the box because they got to worry about all these receivers and Joe Burrow. If the offense is better, that means they're going to be scoring more. That means more scoring opportunities for Mixon. Kenyon Drake could be a breakout this year in Arizona after we saw last year. And then I have rookies here. So Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers. So Jonathan Taylor, one of the greatest, if not like top 3, top 5 greatest running back prospects of all time. 6,000 rushing yards in 3 seasons. Didn't go back for his 4th year. Goes to the Colts with one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in football. So Jonathan Taylor being selected like round 3, 4, 5. And you're getting one of the best running back prospects of all time in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. That's unbelievable value. I'm trying to push the button on Taylor as much as I can get him. I'm trying to draft him wherever I can. I'll even reach a few spots for him. I think Marlon Mack is really good too, but I think Taylor is just that much better where maybe it's going to take some time, but halfway through the year, late in the year, you're going to see Jonathan Taylor explode. I love Jonathan Taylor. One of the biggest Jonathan Taylor fans out there. He's one of the greatest prospects of all time. I think, I don't want to say must draft. I don't want to say he's a must own because he could be splitting the backfield early on, but he could also be a trade target halfway through the year. But it's just the value. It's just getting a running back that could be a top 5 running back in fantasy. Just getting him in the 4th or 5th round is just crazy to me. And with that in mind, that he's going in that range in drafts, I think he's kind of close to a must draft. I don't want to say he's a must draft, but he's close. I'm drafting him, and I'm not drafting him no matter what. So he's really not a draft no matter what guy, but he's pretty much as close as you can get to that. And then Taylor Swift and Akers are all breakouts, players that I love and sleepers. So I'm just going to talk about them real quick and then kind of be done with them. So Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, rookie from last year, didn't show much, struggling with an injury in training camp right now. Cam Akers was awesome at Florida State with a terrible offensive line, terrible team. Cam Akers has a sick profile. He's got great size. He's like 220-ish pounds, I think, 215, 220. Great size. He's got great speed. He ran a good 40 time at the combine. He had an excellent combine, was awesome at Florida State, even on a terrible team. And he has the opportunity to be the starting running back for the LA Rams. And if you're the starting running back in Sean McVay's offense, there's a lot of fantasy points to be had there. If Darrell Henderson is struggling with an injury, that means the job is Akers. If Akers takes over the job, if he can command that starting role, play every down, there's going to be a lot of fantasy points to be had there. Even as a rookie, if you play in kind of keeper leagues, Akers is an awesome pick. You can keep Akers, you can keep Swift and Taylor. Honestly, you can keep any of them next year probably, because I think they're going to be absolute smashes going forward in the future. Cam Akers. So I liked Cam Akers a couple weeks ago. I liked him. I would draft him, or I could get him. I wasn't really going out for him. But at this point, if Henderson's battling an injury, we haven't seen much to suggest that Henderson is doing anything great in camp. At this point, over like a week, 2 weeks before the season starts, at this point on September 1st, I think Cam Akers is a must-draft player. I'm drafting Cam Akers in like the 4th round now in my leagues just because I want to get him that bad. I'm going all in on Akers right now. If he's going to be the starting running back for the LA Rams, he's going to be an absolute smash. He has a great profile, was great in college, and if he's going to be Sean McVay's starting running back, if Darrell Henderson's injured, then I'm drafting him in the 4th round. I'm going and getting him. I'm not letting somebody else take him. I'm taking him before somebody else does. And then DeAndre Swift, stud at Georgia, great profile, great pass catcher. Likely going to be like a 3rd down kind of pass catching back until he can take over. I'm not taking him right now in like round 4 or 5. If he goes to round 6, I'm definitely pushing the button in round 6. I think he's way better than Kerryon Johnson. It's just going to take some time. And I'm not going to take somebody in round 4 or 5 that's going to take a while to get going when I can take some good receivers there too. So I'm going to wait on him unless he's going in the 6th round. But if he does fall to the 6th round, I'm definitely pushing the button, no question. So some wide receivers that are potential breakouts. Allen Robinson, DJ Moore could have absolutely monster seasons this year. I wouldn't call, I guess it's a breakout, but Robinson, like I said in my last podcast, Taylor Gabriel's gone, David Montgomery's injured, Nick Foles is a huge upgrade from Mitchell Trubisky, even if you don't think so. It's an upgrade. It definitely is an upgrade. DJ Moore gets Teddy Bridgewater, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. They get Joe Brady. Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator for LSU this year. The LSU offense had the greatest season in the history of college football. There's pretty much not even a debate for that. The greatest passing college football season we've ever seen. And now the guy that called all the plays and ran that offense is calling the plays for Teddy Bridgewater and DJ Moore. So that's an absolute smash. Love DJ Moore, and it's his third year. Absolute smash. So some other guys to highlight that are breakouts. Calvin Ridley, number 2 option. Sanu's gone. Austin Hooper's gone. So now he's the number 2 option in his third season. A.J. Brown just breakout as a number 1 alpha receiver. We want to see the targets go up. Terry McLaurin, second-year breakout coming. Number 1 target for Dwayne Haskins in Washington. They're going to be losing a lot. He's going to get a ton of targets. DK Metcalf, second-year guy. DJ Chark, third-year guy. Went over 1,000 yards last year. He's like 6, off the top of my head, he's like 6'2", maybe, and like 200 pounds and runs a 4.3. He's huge, and he runs really fast. He has another year of rapport with Gardner Minshew. I love DJ Chark. DJ Chark in the 5th round is a must draft player. Push the button no matter what. Go get DJ Chark. I'm drafting DJ Chark before all the guys in that area. I'm going to get DJ Chark, must draft player this year. And when we get to some guys that are must-own players, I'll let you know. Marquise Brown could be second-year breakout as well. Still extremely fast, in a good offense. They could pass the ball more this year. Put on a ton of weight, 20 pounds, and still looks electric. Michael Gallup could be a breakout in this great offense. Christian Kirk, third-year breakout here. Had some flashes last year, had some big games as a second-year receiver. Hopkins is going to take away number 1 coverage. Kirk is kind of a 1B receiver. He's not an alpha that's going to draw he's not going to beat number 1 corner coverage, but now he's going to get number 2 coverage, going to get some snaps in the slot. Kirk's extremely athletic. I think Kirk is a huge number 3 or huge third-year breakout option as the number 2 in Arizona with that spread out offense. Kyler Murray, extremely accurate. Deontay Johnson last year, number 1 wide receiver in the NFL as a rookie in separation, which is crazy. That's an unbelievable stat. Anytime I talk about Deontay Johnson, I use that stat. Number 1 in the NFL wide receiver in separation from defenders as a rookie, and that's with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. If he gets Big Ben back healthy, if Big Ben's healthy, I think Deontay Johnson is a smash. Sterling Shepard, he's been solid over his career when he's healthy. He's just not healthy that much. He's been solid. He's a solid receiver. Solid is just the word that I'm using here. When I refer to somebody as solid, it means they're not bad, but they're not a stud. They're not unbelievable. But if he stays on the field this year, the offense could take another step forward. He has Daniel Jones in his second year. Daniel Jones isn't afraid to throw the ball, put the ball in danger, take some chances. And with an upgraded offensive line, you could see Shepard have a breakout year here, hopefully, and finally. Anthony Miller, like I said, same reason for Allen Robinson. Darius Slayton, kind of the same reason for Shepard in his second year. But I like Shepard better than Darius Slayton. Jalen Reagor could be a breakout rookie. Allen Lazard is my favorite late round wide receiver to draft. I'm going to put the must draft stamp on Allen Lazard here. Marquez Valdes-Scantling can't catch anything. He did nothing last year. Geronimo Allison is gone. All there is in Green Bay for wide receivers is Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard is going into his third year. He's undrafted. Takes undrafted guys a little bit longer to break out in the league. Just because for whatever reason they weren't as great a prospect, so they weren't drafted super high, or they weren't drafted at all, I should say, for undrafted guys. It takes them a little bit longer to get acclimated to the league. Lazard had some decent games last year, had a 100-yard game against the Giants, had 70 yards in Week 17 and a touchdown. And actually, I have an article going up at Breakout Finder on Twitter I work for them too. Breakout Finder, one of the most awesome, up and coming, greatest fantasy sites you can follow. Go follow Breakout Finder on Twitter. Search them up. Follow the Breakout Finder. They're creating metrics where they're putting together every single analytical point and data point and factoring in everything into a college receiver to determine whether he's going to be good or breakout in the NFL at the next level. Follow Breakout Finder on Twitter. Go look at their content. Buy their app. Go buy the Breakout Finder app in the App Store. It's awesome. I'm kind of an intern, I guess you would say, for them. Great people running a great project. They've had their Breakout Finder database and what they've been able to predict in terms of the analytics and data that they use is unbelievable. So yeah, I just want to plug them really fast. Go follow Breakout Finder, buy their app, and they do a really great job of determining what college receivers are going to be great in the NFL. So going forward, actually, I just want to finish on Allen Lazard right now. Allen Lazard, for me, I'm putting the must draft stamp on him, and why not? Like, you're getting him in like round 12 to 15 of your draft. He's a super late bench guy. Probably goes undrafted in a lot of leagues that a lot of like home leagues with your friends or your family. Probably undrafted. A lot of people don't even know who he is. Number 2 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers. Last year, Aaron Rodgers had the 3rd most pass attempts of his career. And if Lazard is going to be the number 2 on the field, he could be a potential stud. And then N'Keal Harry is a potential breakout. Camp reports aren't great right now, but he gets Cam Newton. Maybe Cam Newton likes him. Maybe they develop some sort of rapport. He still has first-round draft capital. So we're going to tight ends. Tight end breakouts. Mark Andrews could be, if Mark Andrews goes over 100 targets this year, he already kind of had a breakout last year, but this could be a ginormous breakout, like a huge breakout to enter into that top tier of tight ends. Mike Gesicki, I've talked about Mike Gesicki several times on these podcasts. Mike Gesicki is basically the number 2 wide receiver at this point. Preston Williams he's going to be the number 2 receiver, but Preston Williams is coming off of ACL surgery. Parker hasn't been at practice the last week as of September 1st today when I'm recording this. Parker's been missing practice with an injury. Albert Wilson opted out. Allen Hurns opted out. Matt Breida has injury problems. Not right now, but in his career, he's had injury problems. So Gesicki could step in his 3rd year, extremely athletic, one of the most athletic tight ends in the history of the NFL Combine. Could step in and basically be the number 2 wide receiver for Ryan Fitzpatrick. And we've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick for years now just throw the ball, give guys chances, throw the ball into traffic, throw the ball deep down the field, and let guys make plays. And Gesicki, if he's like the number 2 receiving option, could be an absolute smash in his 3rd year. Gesicki, I'm drafting him as my tight end basically in every single league. If I'm not getting Gesicki in my league, I'm taking the next breakout, TJ Hawkinson, top 10 overall draft capital. Starting tight end for Detroit, Matt Stafford, almost the same as Ryan Fitzpatrick, throws the ball into traffic, slings the ball around the field, not afraid to throw it. Hawkinson could break into this top tier or 2 this year in his 2nd season. Noah Fant, super athletic guy, makes some huge plays happen. I don't know if the targets are going to be there with Drew Lock with all these weapons, and I don't know if they're going to spread it out or what, or who's going to get targets. I don't know what's going to happen, but you got to keep an eye on Noah Fant just because he's one of the most athletic tight ends, actually, we've seen in the Combine, too. Also, 1st-round draft capital. Jonnu Smith, another extremely athletic tight end. Notice the trend here for potential tight end breakouts. Notice the trend. They're all extremely athletic. Blake Jarwin is athletic, going to be the starting tight end for the Cowboys. I can't even name off the top of my head the 2nd tight end for the Cowboys. Blake Jarwin could be a great late-round option. Chris Herndon could be a starting tight end for the Jets, who established rapport with Sam Darnold in his 1st season. He was hurt and suspended last year. Basically, I'm trying to leave my draft with Mike Gesicki, TJ Hawkinson, or Jonnu Smith, and that's really it. I'll put Blake Jarwin in there too. I'm really trying to leave my draft with those 4 guys, one or two of those guys. I'm really not taking anybody else in any of my drafts at tight end other than one or 2 of those 4 guys. Other guys I have on this list are Ian Thomas, another athletic guy, another one. Just I can't keep saying it. I can't say it enough. All these guys are athletic, and they're going to be in their 2nd or 3rd season in the league. Irv Smith, athletic tight end, Alabama guy going into his second year, I believe, with the Vikings. They lost Stephon Diggs. Their defense, their secondary isn't that great. If they're losing, they're going to have to throw a lot. The only other receivers are rookie Justin Jefferson, second-year guy Olabisi Johnson, Adam Thielen. So you could see Irv Smith kind of start to take over as a receiver, maybe not as a blocker right away, but you could see him start to have a good year. Maybe not a huge year, but you could start to see him have a solid year as a tight end as you see Kyle Rudolph get older. And then Dawson Knox in his second year with the Bills, he's athletic too. Had some great games last year, had some big plays, also had some drops, but in his second year, he could take a step forward. So those are kind of my breakout guys. Oh, another breakout receiver that I missed, Will Fuller, obviously number one receiver for Watson. Going to be the number one, going to be the alpha. Hopkins is gone. But yeah, those are kind of my breakout guys. Those are guys I think basically with these breakout guys, they're all, most of them or 90% of them are guys going into like their second or third season who have extremely athletic profiles. They're great athletes. They're good football players. They're fast. They're dynamic. They're electric. They can do good things with the football. And we're just trying to see them step into a role with more targets and more snaps and get them on the field more. And if these guys can get on the field and get these targets, these meaningful targets, they could all explode in 2020. So these are kind of my breakout guys. So now going into the sleeper section. So sleeper is just guys that are going in late rounds that I think can completely outperform that late round draft capital in fantasy. Guys that can outperform where they're getting drafted, basically. So quarterback sleepers, I think Carson Wentz is a sleeper. Carson Wentz finally gets some wide receiver upgrades here. They've added speed, and they added Jalen Reagor for him. John Hightower, Quez Watkins, all three in the draft. Deshaun Jackson hopefully can stay healthy. And Carson Wentz is going super late in drafts, and we've seen MVP level upside from Carson Wentz. And if you can get MVP level upside in the late rounds, like 8, 9, 10 of your draft, 11 even, then that's worth it. That's technically considered sleeper. That's technically considered a sleeper. Cam Newton is my biggest sleeper this year. I'm trying to leave all my drafts with Cam Newton. Just think about it with Cam Newton. Potential, maybe not anymore, but former MVP, potential top 5 quarterback in fantasy because of his rushing upside. And just if at all he's healthy, he is now with the best coach in the history of the NFL. Best coach ever. I don't think there's any debate about that. He's now playing for the best coach ever. And he has rushing upside. We've seen him be a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. We've seen him be an MVP. Why not draft Cam Newton late in your draft? Even as your second quarterback, late in your draft, why not take a chance with that rushing upside? You could see him be a smash this year, be a top 10 guy if he stays healthy. Why not? And if he gets hurt or whatever, or he isn't good, then you can just drop him. You didn't waste any significant draft capital on him, drafting him in like the 13th round of your league, the 12th round. You didn't waste anything on him, so go ahead, try it out. I'm not leaving a draft without Cam Newton this year. He's a must-draft player. Joe Burrow, I have Gardner Minshew. Minshew is for super deep leagues. They're going to be losing a lot. I love Chark. Chark's a must-draft player. So just a recap so far for must-draft players. I have must-draft players, basically kind of Cam Akers at this point I think is a must-draft player. If you're going to consider Terrell Henderson being injured. If Terrell Henderson, for whatever reason, doesn't play or he's injured and can't play, then Akers is a must-draft. Akers, like I said, Akers and Taylor are on that cusp. They're not really must-draft, can't leave your draft without them at this point, but they're really, really close. I wouldn't say there's any early to mid running backs that are must-draft running backs other than obviously like McCaffrey and Sparkley and guys like that. But we'll get into some other late-round running backs when I talk about sleepers that are must-draft guys in a minute here. But Chark, I think DJ Chark is a must-draft player. I'm not leaving any drafts without DJ Moore. I wouldn't say he's a must-draft player, but he's close there too. Like I said, I'm not just going to throw around a bunch of names for must-draft players. This is a list This is a small, consolidated, condensed list of a few players that you definitely 100% should draft in your fantasy draft, and you should not leave your draft without them. So really, it would be undervalued. It wouldn't even be valuable information if I was listing out like 15 guys or even 10 guys that were must draft. So guys like DJ Chark, I think, is a must draft. Alan Lazard in round 12 to 15, I think, is a must draft. Number 2 for Aaron Rodgers. And like I said, Akers and Swift, or Akers and Taylor, and even Swift in the 6th round are super close to must draft just because of their upside, just because they could have league winning upside. And then I think Gesicki and Hawkinson are must draft tight ends. So just going back to sleepers now. So we went through some quarterbacks. I actually think Tyrod Taylor's a sleeper. Tyrod Taylor has that rushing kind of floor and upside too. Tyrod Taylor has proven he can be a viable starting fantasy quarterback. Kind of if you're in deeper leagues. These sleeper quarterbacks, other than kind of Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford I have on here, those two are starters in pretty much every league, but these other guys are sleepers for deeper leagues. If you're in a super, super deep league, Minshew I like, Bridgewater, super accurate, like I said, gets Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for LSU, who we saw have the best season in college football history. He's now calling plays for Carolina. Drew Lock could be a sleeper because they've added weapons. And then Tyrod, kind of because they're rushing. Tyrod isn't going to have a ceiling, but if you're in a super deep league, 2-quarterback league, he could get like 15 to 20 points a week and not be terrible, but be startable. So going into some running back sleepers, like I said, with the rookies, I have Taylor, Akers, Swift, like Dobbins. Those are all sleepers because they're rookies. They have huge upside, but we don't know if they're going to be starters right away, except for Cam Akers. If Cam Akers is a starter right away, he's a must-draft player. Matt Breida's a sleeper. Matt Breida's super fast, super elusive. I don't think his role is going to be huge. He's going to split time just because anytime he's kind of been given the reins to the backfield, he gets injured. He's kind of injury-prone at this point because he's little. But he's super fast. Could be a sleeper if he's getting carries and getting like third down pass catching roles. Like you're going to see Howard on early downs and goal line. But if you see, let's say they run out on first down, Howard gets 2 carries in a row, Breida comes in for the third down, gets a catch on third down, gets a first down, and then Breida like stays in and gets some carries. Like if he's getting third down and he's mixing in some carries too, he could have some serious upside in fantasy football. I don't know if I'm drafting him just because of the injuries, but if he does stay healthy, I think he does have some upside. Other sleepers are Zach Moss. So Zach Moss, actually, he isn't that fast. He didn't run a fast 40 time at the combine, but he did show in college that he can be a good runner. He's one of the all-time leaders, or was the leader last year in college football in broken tackles. He has a 30-catch season on his resume. And last year in Buffalo, when you saw the Bills start to go away from Frank Gore and try and give the reins to the backfield to 200-pound Devin Singletary. Singletary got hurt right away. Maybe it was a coincidence, but small guys, when these little guys are taking 20-plus touches and getting hit every play, these guys that are smaller tend to get injured a lot more. I'm not a doctor. I don't have stats on that, but you can kind of think your way through that and think some logic through that if a really small player is getting hit 20 plus times a game as opposed to a bigger player like Zach Moss, who's like 230 pounds, that's they're going to get banged up a lot more because they're little, they're smaller, they don't have that body mass to take those big hits. So Zach Moss is going to get goal line carries. Last year you only saw Singletary get a few, maybe 3, I think it was, goal line carries. Zach Moss is going to get goal line carries. He's going to get short yardage, so he already has a role in this offense. Zach Moss already has a role, and if Singletary gets injured at all or misses a game, Moss is going to be the primary back, and he's going to play almost every down. They showed last year they don't like TJ Yeldon at all. He was inactive most of the year, so you saw they don't like TJ Yeldon. So if Singletary goes down, Moss is going to get everything. He's going to get all the touches in the backfield. And with Josh Allen running around linebackers kind of have to stay put, that with the zone read, with quarterback sweeps and quarterback jets and things like that. You don't know if Allen's going to keep the ball. You don't know if Moss is going to keep the ball. It's going to open up some holes for Zach Moss. So Zach Moss has some standalone value, I think. And if Singletary gets injured, he could be a high-end RB2 in fantasy this year. Damian Harris was the starter at Alabama. He was the starter over Josh Jacobs in college. Damian Harris, if Sony Michel is injured, could be the starting running back for the New England Patriots. He's probably going to be an early down guy, probably not going to get many passes because of James White, but there is value there. If he's the starting running back for the New England Patriots, there is value there, obviously. Kareem Hunt is a sleeper. Kareem Hunt could be startable in fantasy this year, but if he gets traded or Nick Chubb gets injured, he's an automatic RB1, probably a top 10 running back in fantasy, so that makes him a sleeper. Antonio Gibson is a rookie. Darius Geis was just released. Antonio Gibson is 230 pounds, runs a 4.39. We haven't seen that much from him in college. He didn't get that many touches, but he was extremely explosive, dynamic, made some huge plays happen in college. Not that many touches. I think last year at Memphis, he had 1,000 total yards playing running back and wide receiver on only 75 touches. So 1,000 yards from scrimmage on only like 75 touches. So we don't know if he's going to be a hybrid player. We don't know if he's going to play running back. We don't know if he's going to play only receiver. But if Gibson, I think what I've seen from Gibson at camp so far is that he's getting a little bit of both. He's playing a little bit of running back and receiver. But if Gibson's extremely dynamic, he's fast and he's big. If he can figure out this running back position in the NFL, I don't know if he will in year one. I don't know if he will at all in his career. Maybe I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. But if he can figure out this running back position and be the starting running back in Washington, there could be a ton of value there. Duke Johnson is the next guy I have on this list as a sleeper. Duke Johnson has been one of the most efficient running backs in the league the last few years. Yards per carry, yards per reception for running backs. Those are just numbers that show, even though you're not getting that many touches, you're making big plays happen with those touches. And last year we saw David Johnson have that back issue. We don't know what the injuries are like for David Johnson. Is he washed? Are we at that point yet? I don't know. We don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he's completely washed yet. But we saw last year when David Johnson wasn't healthy, he was awful. He was terrible. He was a healthy scratch. They weren't even playing him. They weren't even giving him the ball. So if we get to a scenario where David Johnson, the thing is we don't know. So when we're in situations where we don't know with the starter, then the backup is a great option. Like another guy that I like, Chase Edmonds and Benny Snell, two other guys. Jerick McKinnon is another guy. These three guys, Snell, McKinnon, and Chase Edmonds, we don't know. We've never seen Kenyon Drake be a workhorse back for an entire 16 games in the NFL. We've never seen it. We don't know if he can. We saw it for a couple games last year, but we don't know if he can do it for a whole season. So when we don't know, then we can go ahead and draft that other guy there, like Chase Edmonds, who had a huge game last year against the Giants. He's unbelievably fast and quick. He's explosive. So if Kenyon Drake can't get it done, then Chase Edmonds steps in, and we've seen him be extremely explosive, and he could be an RB1 in fantasy if things break right. And then Benny Snell, James Connors was on the injury report almost every single week last year. He gets banged up every single week. He missed some games. We don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy for the whole season. It's extremely unlikely that he's going to be healthy for the entire season. We don't know. So Benny Snell, they've come out and said, is the number 2 back. And if Big Ben's healthy, you're going to want the starting running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if James Conner could get hurt or miss a week at any point in time, just for whatever reason, maybe it's a Sunday game and he's nicked up and they play Thursday night, maybe they hold him out so he can get extra rest or whatever. If Benny Snell is the starter, he's going to be an RB1 in fantasy or a super high end RB2. If he is the number 2, like they said, and if they are telling the truth that he is the number 2 behind James Conner there. And then Jerick McKinnon, Mostert wants a trade. They've shown that they're not just going to hand every touch to Raheem Mostert. Coleman was poor. He wasn't that good in the playoffs last year, and he was banged up too. So they did give the ball to Mostert because Mostert was kind of the only guy. But now you've seen this kind of between the front office and Mostert, you've kind of seen something here where we don't know if they trust Mostert that much. Tevin Coleman had all the opportunity in the world last year to be the starting running back for the 49ers for Kyle Shanahan with a good offensive line and good blocking, and he didn't have that great of a season either. So enter Jerick McKinnon off of 2 years being out of the league with an ACL tear. I'm a positive guy. I like to think of things as a positive way, because when you're in the late rounds drafting these guys, you have to think about their upside. You're not thinking about their downsides. You got to think about the positives here because you're trying to win your league in the late rounds. So Jerick McKinnon, you have to look at what he has to offer in a positive way. So uncertainty with Raheem Mostert, uncertainty with Tevin Coleman here, and Jerick McKinnon is one of the most explosive backs in the NFL. He's one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL. He can play all 3 downs. He can catch out of the backfield. We saw that in Minnesota, how good he is at catching the ball. Mostert and Coleman, we really haven't seen them catch the ball out of the backfield that much. They're fast guys, but McKinnon's an extremely fast guy too. So who's to say McKinnon doesn't come back after 2 years of rest? Like I said, I think positively that's 2 years of rest, of recovery, of training, rehab and training. If he comes back and he's as explosive as he used to be, Jerick McKinnon could overtake these guys. And obviously you're going to want the number 1 running back for Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers, who run a lot. So I love Jerick McKinnon. I think for me personally, Jerick McKinnon is a must-draft player late. I think Chase Edmonds at this point is kind of a must-draft player. And I think Duke Johnson is close. Damian Harris is kind of a must-draft sleeper. Those 3, 4, 5 guys are kind of must-draft sleepers. If things break right, they can all be studs in fantasy. And then some other sleepers are DeAndre Washington. We don't know. We think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a workhorse right away as a rookie, but like I said, it's an unknown. When you don't know, then you got to look at these other guys for some upside, because if Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he doesn't play well or what, or maybe we don't know. Who knows? That's what I'm trying to say. We don't know. We have no idea what Helaire is going to do. We think he's going to be good, but we don't know. So maybe Washington gets some touches. Maybe Washington gets the start early because he's the veteran. We don't know. So DeAndre Washington, if somehow he ends up the starter for the Kansas City Chiefs, he's going to be unbelievable in fantasy too. Wide receivers. So we're going wide receiver sleepers now. Tyler Boyd, I think, is a sleeper this year just because he's been able to produce the last 2 seasons with Dalton, with Jeff Driscoll, with whoever's playing quarterback there, with no offensive line, in a really terrible offense and a terrible team. And we expect the Bengals to take a huge step forward this year. And if the offense takes a step forward, kind of like I said with Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd could take a step forward too. If Tyler Boyd is starting in the slot all year, we could see a big year from Tyler Boyd too. So I think Tyler Boyd is a potential sleeper. I think Christian Kirk, like I've said earlier, is a potential sleeper here, kind of in that 8, 9, 10 round range. I'm pushing the button on Christian Kirk. He's explosive. He's dynamic too. He can make big plays. He's in a great offense with an accurate quarterback. And those are sleepers to target, guys that are athletic, guys that are fast in great offenses. So we expect the Bengals to be upgraded offensively. We expect them to be a better offense. Christian Kirk, we expect the Cardinals to take another step forward and be in a great offense. Guys that I've talked about, like Damian Harris, the Patriots are a good offense. Chase Edmonds, Cardinals, good offense. Benny Snell, Steelers, good offense. Jerick McKinnon, 49ers, good offense. DeAndre Washington, Chiefs, good offense. We're targeting guys in good offenses that if things break right, they could be smashes in fantasy football. And that's what sleepers are. Sleepers are these guys that we're looking for late in our drafts that could extremely outperform where they're getting drafted. So I think Kirk in 8, 9, 10 could completely blow that like that average draft position out of the water. I think he could completely outperform that. Sterling Shepard is a guy going like round 10, 11, 12. Sterling Shepard is the number one wide receiver on an NFL team. He's not a number 2. He's not a number 3. He's not a slot guy. Sterling Shepard is the number 1 receiver for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones takes chances. You're getting, I think Shepard's going in like round 10. I'm not 100% positive, but Shepard is at least going like that 9, 10, 11, 12 range, somewhere around there, where he's probably going to be like on your bench, and you're going to have a number 1 receiver on your bench if you take Sterling Shepard. Or you can start him in the flex if you're in like a double flex 3 wide receiver league. You can he's startable early in the year, especially when he's healthy. He's going to be startable. I like Sterling Shepard a lot this year, especially with Daniel Jones taking another step forward with that offensive line, getting some new pieces. Daniel Jones is going to have more time to throw, so he can deliver the ball more accurately. You're getting a number 1 wide receiver late in your draft, and that's sleeper potential right there. Deontay Johnson, I've talked about, number 1 in target separation for receivers as a rookie, gets Big Ben. Played extremely well with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. If Big Ben's healthy, Deontay Johnson could be unbelievable. Same thing with James Washington. We really don't know who Big Ben's going to like better. Juju's kind of a slot guy. Maybe they're both good. Maybe all 3 are good. We don't know. We'll see. But I'm not going to completely favor Johnson. I'm not going to completely favor Washington. I think if you're in multiple leagues, you should try and grab shares of both. Maybe in one league you get Johnson. Maybe in one league you get Washington. Who knows? I think one of them is going to be a huge breakout sleeper this year. Anthony Miller, like I've said a couple times now with him and Robinson. Taylor Gabriel's gone. Montgomery's injured right now. Cohen, I don't think Cohen is that great. They really have no tight end. Jimmy Graham is washed. They really don't have any great tight ends there. Miller is the number 2 receiver. Nick Foles is an upgrade over Mitch Trubisky. So Anthony Miller could be a startable wide receiver, could be a flex option, wide receiver 3, low end wide receiver 2, could be startable, could be a sleeper. He's going super late in drafts. Go get Anthony Miller. You're going to be able to probably start him if you see the first couple weeks that he's getting targets from Nick Foles. You're going to see him be able to be startable too, and that's sleeper worthy. Paris Campbell, one of my favorite sleepers this year. Paris Campbell is like 200 pounds. Runs a 4.31. He's really, really fast out of Ohio State. I love Paris Campbell. Phillip Rivers is going to take chances. He's going to throw the ball. He's going to try and throw guys open. He's going to anticipate and throw. He's going to put the ball into tight windows. He's going to take chances. And out of the slot, when you're putting the ball in the hands of guys that run that fast, like we know Phillip Rivers can, then Paris Campbell could be a huge hit this year. In some leagues, he doesn't even get drafted. Most leagues, he's going like the last 2 rounds in your draft. So you're getting an extremely fast, dynamic playmaker with Phillip Rivers, who's not afraid to try and put the ball in his hands, where last year as a rookie, Paris Campbell had some bad luck with injuries, and you kind of saw Jacoby Brissett, who's really not – he tries not to throw the ball into tight windows. He tries to make safe throws, but Phillip Rivers doesn't care about safe throws. He's going to make aggressive throws. And if he's making aggressive throws to Paris Campbell running out of the slot, who's really fast, Paris Campbell, if he even sees like 7 targets a game, could be unbelievable this season. N'Keal Harry is a sleeper technically. He's almost going undrafted in leagues. If Cam Newton likes him, if Cam Newton's going to target him, and with the first round draft capital, I don't think we're going to see the Patriots move away from N'Keal Harry yet. Maybe after this year they'll try and trade him if he has a bad year, but it's not fair to go against players who have a bad rookie season. It's not fair to death sentence any player that has a bad rookie year. The NFL is hard. It's hard to be good as a rookie when you're only like 21, 22 years old. It's extremely hard to be good in the NFL in your first year as a rookie. And I think people kind of forget that, how hard it is to be a rookie in the NFL. And it's not fair to completely death sentence a player who had a bad rookie year, who was also injured as a rookie, so he didn't even get to play his whole rookie season. So going into his second year, it's almost like his first season in the NFL. Like, he had some games at the end of the year last year, but like, it's not fair to to go against N'Keal Harry yet in his career with that first-round draft capital going into his second year with a new quarterback. You don't know. You just don't know. When with that first-round draft capital, we think he's a good prospect. It technically qualifies him as a sleeper because he's going so late in drafts. Allen Lazard, talked about him. Randall Cobb is a sleeper. Will Fuller can't stay healthy. We haven't seen him stay healthy. One hit could end Brandon Cooks' career with concussions. So we could see a point in the season where Will Fuller tears a hamstring, Brandon Cooks has a concussion again, and Randall Cobb is the starting wide receiver for Deshaun Watson. And Randall Cobb is going late in drafts too. So we could see a point where Randall Cobb is starting in the slot and has value week one. We could see that. And we could see a scenario where he's the number one wide receiver in the offense. And that's extreme sleeper. That's extreme sleeper territory there, where you're getting a player that in the late rounds or the last round of your draft that could have standalone value in the slot for Deshaun Watson week one, and if things break right, could be the number one receiver on the team by the end of the year. Miles Boykin, I think I talked about him in my wide receiver podcast. Like I said, I'm doing these back to back, so I don't really remember which one I talked about him in. I think it was the wide receiver one, but let me just say it again. Like, Miles Boykin is extremely athletic. He didn't have that great of a rookie year, but like I said, you can't fault players for having a bad rookie year. It takes time to get used to the NFL, to get acclimated to the NFL game. It takes time. So going into his second year, we could see Lamar have to pass more. Offenses or defenses are going to have to focus in on Lamar, trying to stop him running, make him throw the ball. So if Lamar is passing more, that means there's going to be more targets available. Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, Miles Boykin could take over the number 2 wide receiver role. There is no established number 2 wide receiver there. Willie Snead, I don't even know if Willie Snead is there. I think Seth Roberts is gone. Willie Snead has never done anything special anyways. They drafted Devin Duvernay out of Texas. He's going to be a rookie, but Boykin is going into his second year. Boykin could be the number 2 wide receiver for Lamar Jackson. And if Lamar Jackson has to pass more this year and Boykin is the number 2 wide receiver, there could be value there. And then Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne is technically, if Deebo Samuel's injured, George Kittle's technically the number 1 option, but Kendrick Bourne is technically the number 1 wide receiver right now. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is the veteran, so I give him the edge over Brandon Ayuk. So Kendrick Bourne could be starting and playing every down until Deebo Samuel's healthy. And you want guys in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And if Kendrick Bourne is starting, he could be a late round sleeper until Deebo Samuel gets healthy or until we see somebody else kind of take over in the offense. Kendrick Bourne could be startable. Who knows? We don't know. But he's going to be on the field because of injuries, because of all the wide receiver injuries the 49ers have had. Kendrick Bourne probably isn't getting drafted in any league. I don't think I've ever seen him this year drafted in any league, unless it's like a best ball draft or something like that. But in a normal league, Kendrick Bourne could be the number 1 wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers for a couple weeks. And like, you're not going to start Kendrick Bourne season long, but maybe for the first few weeks, Kendrick Bourne is startable, and that's value right there, and that's sleeper-worthy value. Tight ends, I've talked about Mike Gesicki a million times, so I've talked about Hawkinson a million times. Blake Jarwin is a sleeper. Jonnu Smith, Ian Thomas, Chris Herndon, Irv Smith. O.J. Howard's a sleeper this year. There was a report that said Rob Gronkowski might not be that 3-down tight end anymore, so maybe there is value for O.J. Howard finally. O.J. Howard's not even getting drafted. We know Rob Gronkowski has a bad injury history. We know he gets banged up all the time. So who's to say Rob Gronkowski doesn't get injured and O.J. Howard is a starting tight end for Tom Brady? That sounds like pretty good value to me. O.J. Howard he's been underwhelming for a first-round draft pick. But there's a new quarterback. When there's a new quarterback in town, everything changes. Every quarterback likes different players, so you can't kind of fault O.J. Howard for what he did with Jameis Winston. You got to start over now that Tom Brady's in town. Start over. Maybe Tom Brady loves O.J. Howard. You don't know what's going to happen there. If Gronk goes down, maybe O.J. Howard plays first and second down. Gronk plays third down. And O.J. Howard could potentially have value. Maybe Tom Brady loves O.J. Howard. You have no idea. You don't know. That's a possibility that could happen. that's a possibility that Brady could like O.J. Howard. It's a different quarterback. When different quarterbacks come in, different quarterbacks like different players. So you can't, I don't know, I just said it. You can't fault O.J. Howard for what he did with Winston. You have to turn the page, and you can't hold that against him. Turn the page and flip to a new page with Tom Brady now, and maybe Brady likes O.J. Howard. Jay Sternberger could be the starting tight end this year for Aaron Rodgers. He's athletic. He had some good seasons at Texas A&M. He had one big year there for Texas A&M. He was a rookie last year, I believe. Let me check on that. Give me 1 second. Jay Sternberger draft. I'm Googling it. Jay Sternberger, 75th overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft. So he's going into his second year. We don't know. Second year is a little early for tight ends to break out. We usually see tight ends break out in their third season. TJ Hockenson is the exception here for me because TJ Hockenson was a top 10 overall NFL draft pick. But Jay Sternberger, if he's on the field, if he's a starting tight end for Aaron Rodgers, then there's value there. Like I said about Allen Lazard, if you're on the field as a starter and Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, there's fantasy football potential there. And then Gerald Everett, everybody is on Tyler Higbee. Everybody's talking about Tyler Higbee for what he did at the end of the year last year. But people are forgetting that Gerald Everett was extremely solid in fantasy for a couple weeks this year too. Gerald Everett was the starter. Tyler Higbee did absolutely nothing until Gerald Everett got injured last year, and Gerald Everett had some good weeks. So now that Gerald Everett is back, maybe Gerald Everett reclaims that starting role. Maybe Gerald Everett is putting up numbers like we saw Tyler Higbee did last year. Like I've said other times, I know a lot of things that I say on podcasts kind of mesh together, but with Cooks gone, you're going to see two tight ends on the field for the Rams more. You're going to see Woods, Kupp, and then two tight ends and the running back. So you're going to see Everett and Higbee on the field together. And maybe Everett is an athletic tight end. He's more athletic than Tyler Higbee. So maybe you see Gerald Everett. And Everett was starting over Higbee last year. So Everett was starting over Higbee, and he's more athletic. So maybe Everett comes back this year, and maybe Everett explodes this year. So that makes him a sleeper too. Maybe Everett explodes and do even better than Higbee did last year just because he's back as a starter and he's got another year of experience in the NFL. Maybe Gerald Everett explodes this year with those two tight ends on the field all the time, and now Cooks is gone, opening up more targets. So like when a receiver leaves, that opens up way more targets for other players. So that's going to open up more targets for the tight ends, for Everett, for Higbee. Maybe Everett it takes over that starting role, and maybe Everett's a starter. So those are my sleepers. We went through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Went through all those sleepers, and I'm just going to finish up here with some players that I love this year. These aren't necessarily sleepers. These aren't must-draft players. These are just players I like, players I'm extremely happy to draft this year, players that I want on my teams. Like I said, they're not must-own. They're not 100% must-own draft players. They're not sleepers. They're just players this season that I like a lot, players that I just want on my team. And Nick Chubb, I want on my team this year. People forget how good at football Nick Chubb is. Nick Chubb was an absolute stud at Georgia. He was a stud in his rookie year. He was bad last year because the offensive line was he wasn't even bad last year. Last year he finished number 8 in PPR for running backs, and he doesn't even catch that many passes. So he finished 8th last year, and they just got 2 brand new offensive tackles. Last year you saw Derrick Henry have a monster season, and they just took an offensive tackle from Tennessee. They just took Jack Conklin, one of the starting offensive tackles for Tennessee, and just took him in Cleveland, and they drafted an offensive tackle in the first round. The offensive line upgrade is huge, and Nick Chubb is so good. I think Nick Chubb is a superior talent, and he has better blocking now, and they get Kevin Stefanski, who's a run-heavy offensive coordinator. I'm getting Nick Chubb on my teams this year. I got Nick Chubb in my first draft. I have another draft coming up this weekend. I'm drafting Nick Chubb. I want Nick Chubb on my fantasy teams. Miles Sanders is a player that I like this year for obvious reasons. He can catch out of the backfield. Even Miles Sanders has been injured in camp, and they still haven't signed another running back, which means they still trust Miles Sanders. It's just him and Boston Scott. They haven't signed anybody else, even though people have been saying they're going to sign another running back. They haven't signed anybody else, even with Miles Sanders being injured. That means they are in on Miles Sanders. Julio Jones, another player I like. Like I've said earlier, I think I said it in my wide receiver podcast. Julio Jones, I like. Austin Hooper's gone. You don't know if Matt Ryan is going to have any connection with Hayden Hurst. You can't just assume that Hayden Hurst is going to be the same player Austin Hooper was. And Mohamed Sanu is gone. So really it's Julio Jones and it's Calvin Ridley. So Julio Jones could see even more targets this year. Allen Robinson, I've talked about how much I like. DJ Moore, Robert Woods. I've talked about how much I like. Terry McLaurin. So Terry McLaurin and DJ Chark are going kind of next to each other in drafts. Like I said, DJ Chark I think is a must-draft player. If I can't get DJ Chark in the 5th round, I'm going after Terry McLaurin. They're both on bad teams, but they both have great profiles. I like them both. I like Chark better, but I love McLaurin too. McLaurin's a player that I like. Jonathan Taylor I've said a ton about. Devontae Parker I've said a ton about. Swift Akers I've said a ton about. Will Fuller is a player that I like in the slot this year. Number 1 wide receiver for Deshaun Watson. If he's healthy, he's gonna be great in fantasy. If he's healthy, he's gonna be great. He's a player that I like. Going down the list here, Christian Kirk, another player that I love. Mike Gesicki, love him. T.J. Hawkinson, I love him. Chase Edmonds, love him. Cam Newton, love him. Duke Johnson, love him. Alan Lazard, love him. Jerick McKinnon, love him too. If you've listened to all the podcasts so far, when I went through my quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end rankings, I've talked about all these players repeatedly, which players I love and why I love them. Please go back and listen to those episodes. And if you are one of those people who have listened to all of these episodes, you've seen and heard me talk about the same players over and over again, how much I like Mike Gesicki and T.J. Hawkinson and DJ Chark and all these guys that I love this year in fantasy, and Jerick McKinnon. You've heard me talk about them 100 times now, and I'm just going to keep saying how much I like these players. If you have to, go back and listen to this podcast again or listen to parts and see these players that I like a lot this year and why I like them. And I think you as a fantasy drafter should be targeting all the players that I kind of talked about today. We went through a ton of players, a ton of content. We went through some potential breakout players. We've gone through sleeper players. We've gone through players that I love a lot. And I guess right now, just for the last few minutes, I'll go through some players I don't like. Like I said, we're coming up on draft season, and I don't want to just talk about why I don't like players. I don't want to talk about really that much players that I don't like. I really just want to get this content out there on players that I like. But just real fast, some players that I really don't like this year. I don't like Kenyon Drake that much. Just like I said earlier, Kenyon Drake, we've never seen him be a primary back for a full season. That's why I'm not really drafting him, because we haven't really seen it. If Kenyon Drake is unbelievable this year, then next year I'm not going to be low on him because we've seen that he can handle a workload for a whole season. Hopkins, like I said, changing teams. I'm not really high on Hopkins for changing teams. It's a spread out offense. It's a spread. They're not just going to target one guy. They're going to throw the ball around. Aaron Jones, I'm not a huge fan of this year because they added A.J. Dillon, and they still haven't shown that they love Aaron Jones as a 3-down, like a 90% snap share guy. Josh Jacobs, they've signed Theo Riddick, Devontae Booker, and they have Jalen Richard, who are all pass-catching running backs. I am low on Josh Jacobs. They now have 3 pass-catching running backs, which means Josh Jacobs is not going to get that many targets this year. Some other players I'm not that high on. James Conner, just due to injury. Stephon Diggs, I'm not that high on. Diggs is going to have some big weeks with Josh Allen, but there are weeks where the Bills get ahead. They have a good defense. They like to run the ball when they're ahead. Josh Allen, they don't really throw too much. I don't see John Brown, Cole Beasley, and Stephon Diggs all being fantasy relevant. I see Diggs having huge weeks where he catches some long touchdowns and breaks off some big run after catch or something like that. So the reason why I'm not on Diggs is just because I think Diggs is going to be more boom or bust this year. I don't think the targets are going to be there with Josh Allen. You're not going to see Allen target Diggs as much as like Kirk Cousins did. But Diggs is obviously a really good football player. He's good. He's fast. He's electric. He's dynamic. He's a good deep ball threat with a deep ball quarterback. So I just don't think the targets are there to be startable every week. But definitely Diggs is going to have some big weeks. But if the targets aren't there for Diggs, you're never going to know when to start him. And it's going to be one of those things where he has a big week on your bench, and then you start him the next week, and he has a dud week. And that's kind of why I'm low on him this year. Some other guys I'm low on, David Montgomery. He's injured now, but he's an extremely slow back. He didn't have good numbers at the combine. He's not a fast running back, and I don't really want running backs in round 5 or 6 where I'm getting good receivers, and I don't want running backs who can't make big plays happen. So David Montgomery, if he's the starter, can be fantasy relevant. He can be an RB2, but if he can't make big plays happen, then there's really no upside there, and I don't want players after round 5 or 6 that don't have upside. Devin Singletary, I'm not a huge fan of. Like I said, Zach Moss is going to get goal line touches, early down touches, so Singletary isn't going to score that many touchdowns. Josh Allen will vulture some touchdowns on the goal line, and Zach Moss has a 30 reception season in college on his resume. So people think that Singletary is automatically going to be the third down pass catching running back, but Zach Moss can catch passes too, and Josh Allen doesn't dump off to running backs anyway. So if Devin Singletary isn't getting dump off passes and isn't getting any touches on the goal line, then there's really no fantasy value there because he's not scoring touchdowns and not catching passes. So where's the fantasy value? I don't see it. Especially in the 5th round, I don't see it. Mostert, not a fan of. Don't draft Mostert. Not a fan of Phillip Lindsay. I don't have stats here, but Pat Shurmur is the offensive coordinator. Pat Shurmur has been known for feeding his starting running backs. He lives to feed his starter. Dumps off to his starters a lot. He's made some fantasy running backs great. He helped Barkley be great in his first season, and some other running backs. Back in Minnesota, he made Latavius Murray great. He drafted. I think I can't say for sure, but he definitely helped Latavius Murray be a great fantasy asset. Jerick McKinnon for a year or two there, he helped make great in fantasy. So I don't really like Lindsey. I do like Melvin Gordon as a player. I don't think Melvin Gordon is as explosive now as a player due to some injuries and stuff. But Melvin Gordon for the last 3 or 4 years now is a player in fantasy who I find on all my teams. Somehow I don't love Melvin Gordon, but I keep finding him on my teams. And Pat Shurmur, they gave Melvin Gordon a contract. They paid him. So with Pat Shurmur and the contract paying Melvin Gordon, I'm kind of in on Melvin Gordon, and I'm kind of out on Lindsey at this point. And last year, you saw Royce Freeman get the passing down work, the third down receiving work. So if Phillip Lindsay isn't even going to get receiving down work, if Melvin Gordon, let's say, is getting early down work, and you're not even seeing Phillip Lindsay getting passing down work, then what's Phillip Lindsay's role? I don't even see what role he has if he's not going to be the passing down back, and isn't going to be the early down back either because of Melvin Gordon. So I don't see any role there. I don't like Kerryon Johnson. I love DeAndre Swift. Kerryon Johnson hasn't really been healthy anyway. Kerryon Johnson's been average at best. And I just like DeAndre Swift too much to care about Kerryon Johnson. Tyler Higbee I don't like for reasons I said about Gerald Everett. And Mecole Hardman I'm not a fan of either. Mecole Hardman last year had some big weeks when Tyreek Hill was injured, but he wasn't even getting targeted. Let me look this up, actually, because I want to... Let me look this up. Mecole Hardman game logs. I want to look this up because everyone in fantasy is going after Mecole Hardman this year because they don't trust Sammy Watkins. But what Mecole Hardman is like a wide receiver handcuff to Sammy Watkins, or to Tyreek Hill. If Tyreek Hill is out, maybe you can start Mecole Hardman. But I'm not really in on Mecole Hardman right now. Oh, come on. All right, I'm loading it, and I just want to share kind of the stats here on Mecole Hardman. So we're gonna go to. Oh, NFL game logs don't even have the targets on here. Okay, so I don't have the stats, but there. So here are some games for McCole Hardman. So week 1, 0 catches. Week 2, 4 catches. 2, 2, 4, 4, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. So as a rookie last year, even with Tyreek Hill injured some of the year, McCole Hardman never had more than 4 catches in a game, ever. As a rookie, he never had more than 4 catches in a game. And he had 4 catches 3 times, and after week 6, he didn't have more than 2 catches in a game at all. And there's 1, 2, 3 games in there that I see where he didn't even catch a ball. So if he's not getting targets and he's not getting receptions, then I don't understand why people are drafting him. I don't get it. I don't understand why he's getting drafted by so many people. Yeah, he's on the Chiefs. Like, I get it. He's on the Chiefs. He's playing with Patrick Mahomes. It's worth taking a shot on. But, like, he doesn't even get targeted. He's not even on the field. He's not even getting a chance to get targets. Obviously, you're going to pick him up if Tyreek Hill gets injured. But if Sammy Watkins is injured, you're not going to see Hardman and Tyreek Hill getting a bunch of targets. You're just going to see Hill, or you're just going to see Travis Kelce get a lot more targets. And Hill, but you're not going to see McCole Hardman doing anything. McCole Hardman doesn't even get targeted that much, so I don't know what the fascination is with McCole Hardman right now. So those are just some players that I'm not too high on. And just to wrap up here, we've went through a lot of content. So we've went through sleepers and breakouts and all these players that we've talked about. I hope this can help people in their drafts and some players that I don't like real fast. I hope this can help everybody in their drafts. I hope everybody can take something away from this, a player or something that helps you win your league. I hope some of these guys break out or have huge seasons for you this year. And I put a lot of time and effort into this. So I've been studying since last season ended. I've been reading into things. I've been studying analytics. I've been looking into the draft, everything, just every day since last year. I look at fantasy stuff, and I'm fairly confident that the guys we've covered today will be breakout players or huge sleepers in fantasy this year. So thanks for listening. Hope everyone that listened can take something away from this, and hopefully I can help you win your league this year.